know that it's not just tackling confusion around menopause, it's tackling a complete unawareness and unwillingness to learn, and often a taboo that just simply shouldn't be there. So my name is Neil Hudson-Basing. I'm from conferencemcs.com. We provide MCs from Sydney to San Francisco. So do look us up if you are looking for a conference MC. So we have our wonderful speaker joining us, Lavinia Mita, personal trainer and wellbeing coach. In 2020 awarded an MBE for services in health and fitness over the COVID pandemic and patron of the menopause mandate. Well known for sharing your menopause experience on social media and using your passion and expertise for exercise and healthy living to help women embrace this period of life. Now, when we talk about allyship, we often talk about allyship in relation to sexuality, disability, race. But we can be menopause allies, and this is why it's important that we get more men and young women in the room. Because obviously we all know that menopause doesn't just affect those that go through it, but those around them. And we rely on people around us to support us, and particularly with menopause. So it's really important that we practice allyship when it comes to menopause, in the workplace, at home. And I always talk about my allyship when it comes to menopause. As a gay male, it's always been women in my life who have been my biggest champions and allies. So the least I can do with so many kind of like friends that are going through the menopause is be aware and know what they're going through and how to support them better. Again, whether they're a colleague or a loved one. So welcome to this session. I'd like to hand over to our wonderful keynote speaker.
Thank you so much for having me. I wish we had more men in the room, but thank you, Tessin, and everyone else that's here. So welcome. I'm just going to tell you, thank you for the lovely intro as well. So a little bit about our agenda today. I'm going to do a very quick intro, just a little bit about me and what I've been up to and my mission. Just some basics around perimenopause and menopause, because I feel, especially being South Asian, my communities, probably daily I get DMs on social media still asking what is the perimenopause. So even though there's a lot of awareness over the last sort of year, I would say, I'll just go over some basics. Some stats on the workplace, which are really alarming. I just think they're important to highlight. Some of the common symptoms, a little bit about my journey and what I've been going through. And obviously, as a personal trainer, it would be great if I could get you to get used to my concept of exercise snacking. So I don't know if that's a term you've heard before, but hopefully get us moving a little bit so we're energized for the rest of this amazing expo. And I'll give you a few top tips, things that I recommend when I go into workplaces, how to keep active at work, especially when we're sitting for such long periods of the day. And then we have some amazing handlers that are going to come up and just share their story. And if we have time, we're going to give me a time check halfway. We'll have just open up to any questions anyone has. So, first things first, you made it here. I would love to introduce you to my concept of a breath snack. So I've used this, especially with my perimenopause symptoms, one of them being anxiety. Before I start anything, you may have seen there, I was just like slowly taking some deep breaths anytime I go into any situation where I'm feeling a little bit anxious or just leading such busy lives. So you guys have made it here, and I'd love you just to, if you can, just feel free to close your eyes and just join me for what I call a mindful minute, and hopefully this can be part of your feel-good toolkit, as I call it. So just relax the shoulders, literally just ignore where you are and just center yourselves and try and just tune into your breath. You can place one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, because we're trying to get that lovely expansion. If we're in fight or flight mode, you probably feel like your breathing is a little bit fast. So just try and slow things down. And we're just going to focus on taking some lovely positive inhales and some long exhales. So one technique I use is to count in your heads. I will count for everyone, taking a positive inhale for 4, and then a longer exhale to kick in the parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm going to count in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do what you can. your eyes. And then when you are ready, open your eyes, just let a little bit of the light in. And then take a big inhale, give yourself a little smile, and exhale. You can release your hands away from your eyes. And oh, I love this. Everyone's smiling. Hopefully you just feel a little bit calmer. So it's trying to kick in that parasympathetic nervous system. Hope you keep it in the toolkit. I don't know if you guys enjoy that. Do you feel any different to when you started? So literally you could do that anyway. Just go and hide in the bathroom even if you're at work and get that done. Hopefully you'll use it. So let me know. So something different. Sorry, we have that slide there. So a little bit about me. I'm 44 years old. I was born in London, so I guess the term is British Asian. I've got 3 amazing boys, all taller than me now. A set of bodyguards. I'm surrounded by men. I used to be in the corporate world. I was a project manager. My last role was at BP, managing global projects. So I kind of get what it's like trying to juggle everything with work, life, home, maybe kids. I used to love my role, but I then gave it up when I had my 3rd child. I did fight for part-time, I'd say a job share with the younger 2. Still had to do 5 days work and 3. This is going back 20-something years, and I think I was the first project manager at a company like BP to even get that job share approved. So I know things have changed a lot. I then just focus on being a mum and raising the kids. Joined the gym in my 30s, so that's another thing I like to point out, that it's never too late to start. And I fell in love with strength training. So at first I was just jumping around the normal classes, having coffee mornings with mums, probably more having coffee mornings than working out, not seeing much progress. And it was really when I got myself my own personal trainer, and I never lifted anything but probably my own handbags before that. And if you do follow me on socials, you'll see I love lifting weights, but that's my thing, that's what really helps me feel good. I sat the exams, literally the evenings, not thinking it would be any sort of career. It was more because I'd gone through so many life experiences, loss as well, having losing my father-in-law very suddenly to a brain tumour who lived with us. So within 6 months seeing him deteriorate, it was really the gym that gave me that space, and it was my sanity. So I thought I'd sit the courses, never thought I'd want to do an exam again in my life. And friends started finding out that I was getting qualified as a personal trainer, and a little space in my home basement. So I started training a couple of friends, women one-to-one. This is pre-pandemic, so for about a year I trained women from the age of 30 to 70. Not always looking for the goal of weight loss. A lot of them were menopausal, and at that time, even going back 5 years, we started having conversations, and I did start looking at old blog posts recently, and I was still always talking about menopause, but it wasn't the awareness that we've got now. I then, obviously the COVID pandemic hit, so I did have incredible women that I was training one-to-one. I had a big waiting list because it was so difficult going into the gym and just having that one-to-one time. Incredible results, which you can see on my website. I don't post them often because I'm not a body transformation coach. For me, it goes beyond that, what exercise does for us. So I started going live at the start of the pandemic, just before COVID, twice a day. I was on Sky News before the pandemic in that December, where I was doing an advent calendar with my exercise snacks, which we will go through a little bit of today. And I did a lunchtime exercise snack with my husband and youngest son every day at 15 minutes, trying to get everyone together. Never thought it would take off, and just opened up my Instagram account. Never publicly sort of talked or shared anything about what I was doing. And we also then did an evening workout, a structured program, where there was like a stretch session, not just the HIIT that was going around virtually. I wanted to try and get a balanced program. Cut it short, had thousands of people globally joining, even people up into their 70s, 80s and 90s, and that's when I decided to ask my lovely mother-in-law, who is very camera shy as well, to join me and do some chair-based workouts for the vulnerable, the less mobile, the elderly, and you may have seen them because they've kind of been incredible at just getting that generation moving, but now I apply that to everyone that's sitting too long, which includes, I think, all of us, because of the challenges working from home and hybrid working as well. So yes, so really I did get on an MBE just within 6 months in October 2020. And I guess what it's given me is a great platform because I'm very passionate about giving back. So I'm working with charities that I'm personally related to. So being South Asian, you probably will know we're over 6 times more likely to have diabetes than the average white person. That was pre-pandemic. So all of our families, I mean, it's very rife from my mother's side. I now am an ambassador with them. Soon to be announced outside the society. I'm not going to be able to say that yet publicly, but I'll just tell this room. And I work with brain tumour research, having lost my father-in-law, and a lot of other charities as well. I'm just trying to get people moving and see the benefits of exercise. So last year in April, I started sharing my perimenopause journey. It was after watching the Davina McCall documentary, which brought me to tears. So I've had the most incredible 4 years, obviously starting a whole new journey that I was just telling you about, which was unplanned, doing what I do now. But at the same time, even though I was super busy through the pandemic, there were bouts of anxiety. I remember someone coming up to me saying, oh, you're doing so well, but are you okay? You keep saying you're a little bit anxious on Instagram stories. So I'm very real on my social media. I try and share everything. And I was like, yeah, life is busy, right? I'm sure we're all a little bit anxious. I was just suppressing a lot of the symptoms. I think for me, as soon as my menstrual cycle started changing after the age of 40, I noticed that. I noticed things like numbness, some sort of mood swings, I would say. The things that I found really easy before, like just, school runs or making packed lunches in the morning, I was starting to struggle with them and start stressing me out. And it was only when I watched that documentary, and have you all seen that documentary? For me, after losing my grandmother to Alzheimer's, again, another sort of taboo in the Asian community, which is why I'm really passionate about raising awareness of dementia and Alzheimer's. When I saw the changes in the brain, that's where it kind of brought me to tears, and my husband and son heard me crying, literally stopped watching what they were watching, and they sat and watched this whole documentary with me while I was sobbing away. It was almost that realization, that point for me that actually I've suppressed a lot of symptoms over the last few years, leading this crazy, incredible journey. But that's where the sort of light bulb moment happened. And then I started sharing my journey very publicly on Instagram. I think I was in tears the next morning. I went live. And it was at a book launch with Mariella Fosrock and Alice Smelly, which is their book Cracking the Menopause, where I was in a room full of middle-aged white women, and I decided to stand up at the end and basically say, I'm only 44, I'm South Asian, I've just started HRT this week, I've just been opening up about my story, and the response was amazing. I mean, they literally stood up and started clapping, and people were coming up to me afterwards. And then I started doing more research, and I found that being South Asian, you can actually go through it 5 or 6 years earlier than the average white female, which is another thing I'm trying to just get out there, because everyone's journey is very different, and I think you'll all probably find that. So even if you're younger, I think it's so important to be in the room. I wish there were more men here, but I'm pleased it's getting recorded and it should get sent out. So to cut things short, it was then a little bit of a spiral after meeting Mariella, and she got me as an advocate for this menopause mandate, which was just starting up. With the likes of Davina McCall and Lisa Snowden, all the big names, which was great because you just want to see familiar faces out there, mainstream media talking about their experiences. And since then, we've been at Parliament a few times. We're trying to get a lot of things changed. We know that there's lack of education for GPs. It's not even properly covered in the school curriculum. There's so much work to be done in workplaces. The costs around HRT, which you've obviously seen last week. So we work with Caroline Harris, who's MP, who's been fighting for the charges and prescription costs to be just made as a one-off charge rather than the ridiculous amounts we're all having to pay. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's a great agenda going on, and a lot of noise. So now they asked me to become a patron, which is fabulous as well, because I just feel like, especially, I think the more relatable faces that you have, and I'm just a real woman that's going through it, hopefully it will just help more women out there. So, I've said from now, we're all sitting. If you feel like it in my workout, feel free to get your steps in. I don't know if anyone's managed to get many steps in commuting here. But if anyone wants to move, check out your Fitbits. If you have a quick look, you can easily, like I demonstrate with on my Free Friday workout, you can get some steps in. So if anyone feels like it, see some trainers on here. If you're comfortable and you want to get your heart rate up, rather than just sitting, feel free to march on the spot. I will do something with you in a little while. So my main mission is to help all ages. I've had up to the age of 100, and she had Alzheimer's in a care home, join me on my free workouts, and I continue them every week with my mother-in-law, and it's the most rewarding thing I can do. But it's also to, my slogan is to exercise for sanity, not vanity. So it's really, for me, yes, look good, feel good, I get that, but it's more what the power of exercise, what it does for us with our mental health and with all the amazing things it does to reduce risks of chronic illnesses. So I think you guys will have seen, last week was quite a noisy week on the menopause front, where you probably saw that they rejected a trial to give women workplace leave. So that was, again, a little bit of noise. And then the next day, a sort of positive message saying that hopefully by April, the HRT prescription costs will be sorted, but they haven't given much detail again, so I've kind of gone back to them. But nearly 1 million women in the UK, in Britain, have quit their jobs due to menopause. So these are stats that I think are just growing, and now we're getting more and more research. I think this will keep changing. A stat I also heard is 1 in 10 women who work during the menopause have actually left their jobs. So I just think it's something that definitely needs to be addressed. I think we are, like, middle-aged women are the fastest growing demographic in the workforce. So companies do not want to lose that talent. And that's why I think it's now getting, into mainstream. I think a lot of companies are working to get menopause policies. It's something we can talk about later as well. But I think it's great today. I was going to get Chetan up to do a little intro, but I want to thank him really for bringing this to an event like this, and even just putting it on the agenda. I think it's just so important. Hats off to you, and maybe you can share if you feel comfortable why you did it. But I think it's great, and I think the more we do this, the more women will feel supported. And likewise, I think, if you are a male boss, it is a challenge if you have female employees coming to you with their symptoms and their worries. How do you support them? Like, do you feel comfortable talking about it? And at the same time, all the women in your lives, whether it's outside of work, in the home, it's just a really important conversation to have with everyone. So I think what really hit home for me when I started talking about my journey on social media was the amount of messages I had. I was flooded with women telling me that either their marriages had broken down or they had issues with, I've got teenage boys, I've got 2 young men now and a teenager, and we know how challenging it can be as a mom if you've got teenagers. But a lot of their relationships, even with their loved ones, started breaking down. And the worst thing for me was when I had 3 or 4 women message me at rock bottom. And the statistics, around suicide as well, really, really scare me. So I then got, some professionals come on board on my social media, and now obviously I'm part of this organisation campaigning for the menopause. But I just feel like I don't want women to suffer out there. The more we normalise the conversation, the more we talk about it, the better. And for all the younger women as well, just to feel a bit more prepared about it. So that's my goal, is really to try and raise awareness. And I think doing this today is brilliant. So anyone not know what perimenopause is? And don't be shy, it's good. Put your hands up. Brilliant. Photographer, you can even put your hands up. Do you know perimenopause? I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah, so it is common even now for me to get, like I say, women messaging me. Perimenopause is the transition period, so I think menopause was confused before. People haven't really heard of the word perimenopause, and women were battling for up to 10 years, it can be, before the menopause, which is when you've actually stopped your periods for 12 months. It's almost like a point in time, and we were kind of calling it this big phase. And after you've gone through that point of menopause, it's post-menopause officially. So I was under 45, so I think actually, for me, they want my periods to have stopped for 2 years, you know, if you kind of do an early menopause. But the crazy part is that it can affect women for up to 10 years. I mean, I think 25% of women, so 1 in 4, may not experience symptoms at all. So I also want to point that out, like if you are younger, if you've got daughters, you know, actually get that positive stat out there as well. I think 25% have symptoms that are so debilitating that it can really, really affect them to the points of things that we talked about. And I'm trying to rephrase this whole talk. I almost want us to embrace the menopause, even though I've kind of had moments where I struggled. I thought it was actually post-COVID, which is why I suppressed everything. I just thought, you know, the brain fog and the hand numbness and things like that, just post-COVID things. I remember even going for a chest x-ray after I had COVID really badly, where I was getting breathlessness and tight-chested. And for me, being very active, I was literally bedridden and my oxygen levels had gone down. When I had COVID so badly, I had to literally start my exercise snacks to help me build back up with my fitness routine. So I think post-COVID also was, you know, a bit of a blur for a lot of women to identify whether you had perimenopause or not. But the good news is you may not have any symptoms at all. And I think the main thing I want to point out here is that everyone's journey is so different. Like, you might have something random, and I'll talk about the symptoms, because the list just seems to be growing and growing at the moment. But the thing that I like to highlight is that whether you choose to go on HRT or not, and I'm not going to really go into the depth, I'm not a medically trained health professional, but obviously I've been figuring out my own HRT journey, which I'm actually still struggling with to find the right path. I've been on it for about 7 to 8 months, having the same discussions with my mum where she was like, oh, I don't even remember the menopause, you know, they just sort of sailed through it, and I think especially with like Asian women, they kind of probably didn't even have the time to think about themselves, because even as a community we're very like, just look after everyone around you, and the woman always comes last. But with my own mum, when I said I was going on HRT, initially there was that bit of resistance, that shock, because of all the bad press HRT had in the past. But we know now that there are safe solutions out there. And again, I think it's your own sort of journey, figuring out what you want to do. So I'm not just pro-HRT, I'm just like, go for whatever feels right for you. But exercise and lifestyle choices are key for women's health. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, I would love all women to be focusing on their health. So I will just whiz through some of these symptoms. This is a reel that went a little bit viral. It's gone out again this week on social media. If we get that to play, hopefully it'll play. Otherwise, I'm going to start whizzing through. See if you recognise any of these. Maybe count them, and I'll get a show of hands. There's a few more. So this list seems to be growing and growing. Anyone want to just share? Maybe a couple, handful. Anyone recognise any symptoms? I mean, there's just so many things, right? I've read somewhere even things like hay fever, which have been worse for me the last few years, and I thought I'd finished that, you know, in my 30s. Allergies, things like that. There's so many different. So this is not a comprehensive list, but I can see some nods. And it may not be perimenopause or menopause. It could be, it's always worth getting a blood test done. I will point that out because it could be things like thyroid. It becomes very common to mix some of the symptoms up. So it's always good to go talk to a healthcare professional. But the main message here with symptoms is that I think all women should be keeping track of your symptoms, and that is what you should be taking to a GP appointments. Because a lot of women I know are continuously, even now, getting fobbed off by their GPs, which they don't mean to do. But if you saw someone like me, you know, if I'd gone in when I was 40, the GP would have said straight away, there's no way you're perimenopausal. But if you've got that list of symptoms and you're tracking it regularly, I think that is what you go to them, and you can almost self-diagnose yourself. Come on in. There's a male there, what's good? Okay, so I'll just do a very quick raise of hands. How many of you ladies here think you're in perimenopause? Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's a good number of us. Anyone that's beyond the menopause, postmenopause? Amazing. So really good. Like, it's good we've got a lot of experience in this room. Anyone want to share some HRT? Interesting. Good. Any men, we're putting Paul Chetton on the spot. Any women in your lives, I know you might, do you think anyone close to you, wives, partners, sisters, nieces, anyone could be going through the perimenopausal menopause?
Quite a few colleagues.
Good, amazing. Okay, so we'll go to the fun part now, my exercise. So how many of you currently regularly exercise? I would say a couple of times a week. Well, very good. So do you think you hit the government guideline of physical activity? I'd really like to point this out really quickly. If you don't know what they are, 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity. So something just going to raise your heart rate, like a brisk walk, cycle, swim. 150 minutes, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity activity, so like a run, bit of HIIT, so you could just maybe do 2 runs, or a combination of both. So that's the aerobic side. The most interesting part for me is, are you strength training 2 or 3 times a week? Yay! Okay, brilliant. So I know it's very common not to be. I think a lot of people hit the cardio and maybe don't realise the importance of strength training. So that's the key message. Hopefully you'll take home today. I can try and get you to start strength training. So how many of you are short on time? I know we're here for an amazing day, but we're all like probably too scared to look at our emails and phones. But yeah, short on time, juggling life. The majority of us, I think. How many of you lack knowledge on what exercises to do? So if I said strength training, would you even know where to start? Issue, yes. Okay. And how many of you lack motivation? These are like the biggest barriers. Yeah, everyone, right? Even me, I go live sometimes, and I'm like on Instagram saying, I really didn't feel like going live, but hopefully capture how you feel at the end of any type of movement, and hopefully you feel slightly better. So I try and get people to use that as motivation. Hitting the guidelines, including the key strength training part, will help you reduce your risk of so many chronic illnesses. I know we've got a slide up with all the stats, but things like cancers, heart disease, diabetes, so pre and type 2 diabetes can be reversed through exercise and lifestyle changes. Dementia, depression, osteoarthritis, 83%. You're less likely to get osteoarthritis. I think that's quite amazing, especially as we age. Breast cancer patients, I don't know if you know anyone in the room, are told you could go post-treatment to actually start exercising rather than having chemotherapy. I think that is like a revelation on its own. And strength training plays a huge role in that as well. So I think now lifestyle medicine is changing, and hopefully in the future I want all doctors to really prescribe exercise with healthy eating, obviously things like not smoking and reducing alcohol, they all play a part. So I just wanted to point this out, and even early death by up to 30%. So I like focusing on that side and using the health part when I'm like struggling to find motivation. I'll quickly say, I think I've touched on most of them. There's other things you can do to reduce your symptoms of menopause, whether you're an HRT or not. And this is, again, a growing list, but things like herbal supplements, things like acupuncture, the breath work that we talked about, mindfulness, just having that little 5 minutes of self-care to yourself, or even a minute committing to that in the morning if you're enjoying that breath sound. There's loads of different breathing techniques and things you can do. Self-care, I think, plays a huge part. Obviously nutrition, and I've obviously said lifting weights. So I think I've covered this part, which is good, about my journey. Very quickly about the benefits of exercise. For me, the main things are improving our bone health, our brain health, our heart health, and our mental health. And we know that as we age, we start losing muscle mass and bone density, so things like osteoporosis, sarcopenia, it's all a natural part of aging. But we can do so much through basic strength training to help reduce our risk. And once you hit the menopause, you're obviously more likely and at risk of things like heart disease, metabolic conditions, diabetes. Our risks just increase, unfortunately. So I think health is super important. It's going to help us sleep better. I started struggling with my sleep, I thought, when I had kids. And then it got worse for the last few years. And you just think, oh no, it's fine, I've just been a terrible sleeper. But we know that when we don't sleep well, it just affects everything in life, right? You just don't sometimes have that motivation even to exercise. So that's where I think, just focusing on the benefits and our long-term health. This is not just, yes, we want to get fit for menopause and embrace this period. This is because women are living for up to 30 or 40 years more than we ever expected. Hopefully touch wood, 70s, 80s, and how do you want to feel? Do you want to have that longevity and independence as we age? Hopefully be able to run around grandchildren and things. So, exercise snacking. Could be daunting with exercise and the targets that I've said. This is my little concept. I've manifested in this room that I'm in the process of writing a book about this. Hoping to. But this is where I want you to hopefully just try and take on board some easy, quick, free ways to get moving. I like to think of them as little treats for your body and mind. It's all about taking short, bite-sized amounts of movement that are going to help us hit those government guidelines. So, I thought we'd do a little bit of movement. Are we up for it? I haven't told the guy if we have some music here, but I don't know if I've forgotten his name. Put him on the spot here. We don't have any music, do we? By any chance? Don't worry if we don't. I'll get you all moving. So, if you're working from home, you're probably sitting for potentially longer than if you were going into the office. Are you already feeling a little bit tight from this morning, maybe, just sitting around? So I'd like everyone, if you wanted to join in, we're going to do this for 5 minutes. I'm going to have, obviously, our panel discussion. We're going to start with what I call a feel-good hug. I used this, invented this over the pandemic, so we're all missing touch and the power of connection. And I think it's a great one to use when you're just stuck on Zooms and you can turn the camera off. Maybe take some of these things away with you. Almost like a seated or standing cat-cow. So you can stay seated or you can stand if you want. But we're all going to just open our arms out, really open out the chest, arch your back. Yeah, feel free to give a colleague or someone new a hug as well. Breathing in lots of positivity. We're going to round the back and give ourselves a massive big hug. Lovely. So chin to chest, tucking the tailbone under. Don't go. Who's thinking, is this the right session? Maybe we do. So breathe in. Let's do one more. Lovely. Give yourselves a big hug just for taking part today. And I can see some smiles. For me, that's like ticking the box. Yay, job done. Oxytocin, the love hormone, you just released it. Give yourself some self-love or try it out with someone. We're going to just do a few head rolls, so you can just relax your arms, have a nice straight back. Just circle out your head 2 or 3 times and then change direction. This is to show you don't have to have fancy gym membership or any fancy equipment, or you can change your clothes. And then we do the same with our shoulders. We can just draw big circles. Anyone get neck pain, back pain, from sitting too long, punching over screens, telephones. I mean, even kids these days. If you focus on your breath in this one, you're going to really feel the power of the heart chakra. So it's going to help you just feel a little bit happier, a bit of self-love here, a bit of mobility, which is really important for our joints. We haven't got bands and belts, but I use Parabol tights. I don't expect everyone to whip any tights out here. But shoulder flossing is my signature move, so just check out my free workouts. And that's a great one. I'd love everyone to do every day, a bit of shoulder flossing, like you floss your teeth. Or we can just do a few arm circles to mimic it. And you may find it hard to even get full range of movements. Feel free to stand up and stay down. We're not going to knock anyone out here. Good, yay. Lovely. If you're standing, you can either march on the spot, get your steps in. Amazing. And relax. Okay, I haven't got a hairband, but we're going to do a quick sunflower. This is a good one that I think is great if you're just feeling tight. You're going to have your hands on opposite elbows. You're going to come forward, seated or standing, into a little forward fold. If you're standing, you might feel your hamstrings kick in. And you're going to just roll up in one direction like a beautiful sunflower, coming round the other side, using your breath, engaging your stomach muscles, change direction, inhale and exhale, just giving the spine some length, roll up, brilliant. So, little sunflower in your toolkit now as well. We're going to do 3 strength moves. So this is where I want you to get into a bit of strength training. So I'm going to use my chair, because we do these seated with my lovely mother-in-law. I've got a skirt on, so I'll face this way. But we're going to have our knees nice and wide, going in line with your toes. And all I want you to do is try and do some sit and stands. Everyone here can stand, but if you can't, I even show, it's used by people with disabilities, other options in case people can't stand. But check out the workouts. We're going to come up into a lovely squat position using the chair, inhaling, exhaling, backs nice and straight, stomach muscles in, knees going out in line with your toes. You should be able to see your toes as you come up. I'm very hot on form, but I don't think I'll be able to go around the room and check everyone's form. Think about the muscles you're engaging. Can you start feeling your glutes, hamstrings start working? Even if we did 10 of these, breathing out, you are getting what I call a squat snack in. If you can even just train yourself to do these every few hours, we'll do 2 more. Can you feel it? Any little, hopefully no pains. Things that I encourage are safe household objects, maybe putting a rucksack on your back, increasing weight. We do them with tins, plastic bottles, all sorts on my workout. But the beauty is to try and then start adding in some weights, which we won't do today, but I can see some lovely big bags there. You could have held them next time on your squats. I would love you all, if possible, should we try a couple of dips? I'm just going to show you one for upper body. I normally get people to do a wall press up, but I don't think we've got enough wall space here for everyone. So we're going to try and do... They swivel. Okay, I'm warned here. Yes, I should demonstrate. Maybe get one of those chairs up for me here. The health and safety, thank you. So, anyone done a dip off the chair before? Yay! Okay, we know it's going to hopefully fire up these lovely triceps. Oh, thank you. Just in case, there we go. We're going to keep our elbows back and in, so they're not flaring out. Nice straight spine. Stomach muscles are always in all workouts to engage our core. Knees bent is going to be easier, and we're going to go down and squeeze up. Now, I didn't even think through that I'm wearing a dress today, so we're going to go down and up. Now, you're going to try and get to a 90-degree bend in those arms. Breathe out as you come up. Can you feel it? Just do as many as you can, up to 10. That's it. You don't even have to do the 10. To progress, I'll show you the progression, not now maybe, but one day, full tricep dips, thank you, and release it off. Did you feel it? Yes? Feel your heart rate's gone up. This is a good stretch in case you remember me tomorrow, in a nice way, but a little stretch for your triceps to do. And this one actually is quite interesting because we were all rounded in our backs. we get this kyphosis that we're trying to reverse and get our posture better. I've seen people struggle to even get their elbows all the way back because just of the way our lifestyles are. It should get your heart rate up. I mean, that's literally 2 exercises. I've given you the top 5 strength moves. But what the beauty of strength training is, it's going to build muscle mass. The more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn at rest. So people that are trying to lose weight or maintain a healthy weight, strength training plays a part, but most importantly, it's going to build your muscle mass and things like osteoporosis that are so common as we age. It's a key part, and obviously start lifting weights, lunges, squats, press-ups, dips. You could just do a little snack while you're cooking. I've gone into workplaces, LinkedIn last week, and I'm saying to the office, I want your coffee machine every time anyone's making coffee to be doing their press-ups. That's the future that I see in the workplace when I go on about these companies. Last little one, there's lots obviously online for you to use for free. We're going to do a little bit of boxing, so mind out if you've got anyone that you work with. I don't want you to punch anyone in this room, but a little bit of shadow boxing. So all you're going to do, if you want to shuffle your feet, you can march it out, brilliant, and we're going to punch away any worry, any stress, any tension. This is the best stress reliever. I'm going to ask him to video this one for me. Yay! So guys, that's it really. Everyone boxing. We'll go for 10 more seconds. You can add in some tins, some plastic bottles, anything here just to add in. 5, 4, 3. Punch away your worries. 2, 1, and relax. Yay! Amazing. Give yourselves a clap. Heart rate should be up, and that was from 30 seconds. So even if you did that a few times in the day, snack on exercise, let me know how you get on. I'd love to do longer, but I know we've got some important bits to get through. So just a little taster. Obviously I do even stretching. I think it's such an important part of self-care. I'd love to show you more. We'd have to do a whole workout session. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of it. And you can always do a bit of balance work. It's so important as well. Every day there's a study, about 10 seconds on one leg last year, and links it to living longer. I mean, just a simple thing like being able to balance. Obviously, as we age, reduces the risk of falls, but also if you're running and corrects muscular imbalances. And I try and teach my kids, try and do it when you're brushing your teeth. It's actually quite difficult. So, really quick tips before we move on. I would say when I go to workplaces especially, and for all of us, I think we should be diarising our workouts, just like an important meeting. So if you have got more time to do more than just a little snack, if you've got that 10 minutes blocked out, or if you could set yourself a reminder every hour to get a little bit in to snacks, just get these bite-sized amounts through the day to build up to those guidelines. We're always on meetings. Could you turn your meetings into a walking meeting? For me, I call them feel-good walks. I post about them daily. Even in the effort, it's someone somewhere is going to say, I've gone on a feel-good walk. And it will just be amazing because I think when we're exposed to fresh air, ideally a bit of nature, the mental health benefits are huge. And obviously we're then getting our cardio targets in as well. Chair-based stretches, mobility drills, I've got tons of those, we're doing a couple today. I hope it just eases out any tension. We want to keep our mobility up as well. I've got, things like, obviously, food dressing the part. I love the fact now, you've got my trainers on, obviously, but we are mainly in more active leisure wear. But we can work out even without having to get dressed up and go to the gym. Every hour, like I said, alarms, maybe just lapping the house if you can't get out of the house. I had a concept called stair snacking through the pandemic that I told everyone on TV and radio. An incredible study, 3 flights of stairs, 3 times a day. We all have access to stairs, whether it's at home or at work, in a stairwell. Incredible research over 6 weeks to improve your overall body strength, your aerobic capacity and your leg strength. So lots of amazing studies that I keep researching. But that's just a good one to maybe, think about. Just say, instead snack, I've done it today. Just tie it onto an existing habits, maybe after a meal to help digestion, great for controlling blood sugar levels as well. Gratitude journaling, I personally love it. It's something I got into over the pandemic, just as I saw things were just moving so fast paced for me, but also I think it's just really important through everything we've all been through the last few years to just sometimes, even if it's like the same 3 things that I'm grateful for in the evening, it just gives you that little bit of a moment just to be grateful, right, for what we've all got. Eating healthily. My mum is a chef and cookie writer. I love my food. I don't believe in any sort of restriction. I've never done a diet in my life. I try and keep it very real. I know that the things like menopause, the menopot as we call it, the belly area, we end up with, as estrogen levels drop, that people do store weight in the abdominal region. Food for me is about nurturing rather than restriction. My mom is like a biological scientist. Her book is filled with food, which is where my filled with Lillian Brown comes from. But healthy eating, diversifying, trying to hit the 13 pounds. If you've seen her Jim Spector, I did a live with him a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's just really important that food is there with obviously exercise. They kind of go hand in hand. So I won't talk too much about food, but I would love to get some of the lovely ladies here have said they will come up and just have a couple of minutes to share their journeys. I think it would be really great to hear how your experience has been. So yeah, welcome up, yay! Thank you.
Oh.
So yeah, Dina, do you want to do a little quick intro?
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you so much for coming up.
Is it on? Yeah. I'm Dina, I'm from Orange Door, and Chet asked me to talk today because he's heard all of my story, over several bottles of wine, I think, somewhere. I know we shouldn't be doing that, but every now and then. Yeah, I used to, I won't say where or whatever, but I had a very difficult job at another place, not where I am now, and I was experiencing some bullying in the workplace and that kind of thing. And although I'm not belittling what happened to me through that, I don't think I dealt with it very well because I was going through my perimenopause and I wasn't aware of it. And so I went to go and see a GP and he told me that I wasn't because I was young. I was in my late 30s. But I was pretty sure that I was. Anyway, I got asked to take prescription drugs for depression, and I didn't do any of that. And then I ended up getting sacked from that job, and it was a terrible, terrible situation. And I look back on it all now, because I went to go and join Orange Door. Elizabeth told me about being perimenopausal and HRT and everything like that. Started to take it. Oh my God, it's completely changed my life. For me, the HRT has changed my life. I am much less anxiety. I just feel better, and just so much has got better through it all. And now I look back on my time, and I realise that although it was a terrible thing that was happening, I was not dealing with it very well because I was going through my menopause, and I didn't know, and they weren't helping either. But yeah, so it's that's where I am with it now. But literally, you don't realise things like itchiness, tears, crying over everything. I mean, I'm a crier anyway, but it was really, really bad. But yeah, that's my story.
And it was young, right? So you were
really young. So I've got all sorts of, like, baby was IVF, and then was born prematurely, and they look back on that and think that was maybe because I was perimenopausal when I was pregnant, which is a real thing, by the way. So there's all that kind of stuff, and you just wouldn't know. And you think that going through your menopause, you're some kind of old matron or something, But that's just not the case. And now, speaking to lots of people, the big thing for me today is I just want everybody to be aware of it, and I'm like shoving it down everyone's throats, because I think it's a shame there aren't more men in the audience, because I think that if people could, we now have a menopause policy at work that we make everybody read when they join, and they have to tick that box. It gets introduced, and that's about just being aware of how people are and talking about it. I mean, there are 6 people on our senior leadership team, 4 of which are women, and all of us are going through our menopause, and we talk about it very openly in the office.
Oh, amazing. Good. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. And I think also, just to point out, a lot of women do go to the GP and get prescribed antidepressants, right? That used to be like the first port of call. And it's just, I mean, it's amazing to see. I think the positives now, right? That you've come out on the other side, and it sounds great. Your workplace sounds like the ones that we want everyone to be sort of aspiring to. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Dina. Hi, everybody. I'm Henriette. I probably started my perimenopause journey about 3 years ago, I'd say, and it coincided with the pandemic hitting. And so when I approached my doctor about something else, actually, and just happened to mention some of the symptoms that I was experiencing, she put it down to stress. And I just knew there was something else going on. And thankfully, it's through a network of close girlfriends who were talking openly. And I think it was about the time that you started to see more in the press as well, with Davina and other celebrities kind of bringing it to the fore and being spoken about a whole lot more than it ever has been. Otherwise, I would have thought my doctor was right, that it was stress. But I wasn't getting any support with my GP. Actually had to end up going privately to actually be heard and actually have some sort of resolution. Which is something I really couldn't afford at the time as well. It was a time when, there wasn't a whole lot of work. Events had dropped off a cliff, and I wasn't being paid. So to actually have to pay to go private was a huge, huge decision. But I'm glad I did. And now, thankfully, I have found a GP that is supportive. So I kind of go back and forth between the two. But when I did my pre-appointment sort of questionnaire, I ticked off 18 symptoms, but none were the typical symptoms that we associate. I didn't get night sweats, I didn't have hot flushes, but I had anxiety, I had the itchiness, I had dry skin for the first time in my life. I'm normally a grease ball. And also, I've never actually shared this with anybody, but I had my first and thankfully only ever suicidal thought, where I just burst into tears walking down the street one day and thought, what the heck am I doing? Why don't I just end this? And thankfully haven't had that since. I've been on HRT as well, and that for me has worked really well. Like you say, it's a journey, and it's something you have to kind of tweak. But the one positive I'll say about that is it does really make you listen to your body, to your needs, and to keep listening, because it never stops. And I just think that we need to talk about it more, because if my friends hadn't been talking about it, I don't know if I'd be at a space now where I am comfortable with what I'm going through and able to share my story.
Oh my gosh.
I think we need to be.
It's a lot of courage.
We need to be.
I'm so pleased you're feeling good, right? You've got through it. But I think a lot of people can probably relate, and that's like the whole purpose of things like today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, actually that's made me feel very emotional, and
Yeah,
that's
I
one
know.
of the other symptoms
Yeah.
that we have is emotions.
Tissue box here.
Yeah. I started my perimenopausal journey in my mid-40s, and I had no idea that's what I was going through. And it was really interesting because life was good. I had 2 young children. I was working full-time, so in our industry, as we know, it's a very busy industry. I was having a house renovation, but all things that I can cope with. You know, I think we're quite strong, us women. We can cope with a lot in our lives, and we're very good at multitasking. But I started to have anxiety, panic attacks. I couldn't sleep, and believe me, I can sleep. I just literally put my head on the pillow and fall asleep. I sleep in the car, I sleep anywhere. But suddenly I find myself not being able to sleep, and I'm shaking. Sorry. I found this quite difficult speaking in front of people, but I just had all these symptoms. I had the most incredible muscle aches that I'd never experienced before. And I started taking muscle relaxants. And I remember saying to my husband at the time, I said, God, I just don't feel right. So I thought I'd better take myself to my GP. So she sat down, chatted with her, told her how I was feeling. She was in her 20s. And she said, oh, I think you're depressed. And I thought, maybe I am, because sadly my mother had depression. I lost my mother to depression, so that's another story. And I just thought, oh gosh, maybe this is hereditary, I'm suffering from depression. But looking back, and now with the education, and thank you to Maria, because that's when I first saw her TV show, speaking to some of my friends who were starting their perimenopause, and I'm thinking these symptoms, because again, I didn't have the hot sweats, I didn't have the symptoms we associate with menopause or perimenopause. And then I realised that, oh my God, so I was on this journey on my own actually, and I just thought, how do I get through this? Because I didn't want to go on to antidepressants. So I went down the health journey. So I started exercising, running. I signed up for a mud run, so I did 11k mud run with 123 obstacles. I never thought I'd be able to do something like that. Strength training I started, meditation and self-care. I'm a massive advocate of self-care, and especially in our industry, because I think that we don't give ourselves enough time to look after ourselves. And being through that journey, I'm 51 now, and I've been through that journey, and I have never felt better, and I'm not on HRT. So I've done it, it just has worked for me. Who knows, I might in the next, my periods are sort of up and down, so I'm not completely through, I'm not at menopause yet. But I feel strong, as you said, the weight training has really helped me a lot. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So that's my story.
Thank you, girls, so much. Do you know, I think it's just the fact, look, I can hear it's emotional. Even, I think we needed like another half an hour, literally just to sit and listen to people's stories, because, I mean, it's amazing, everyone's journey is so different, and yet you're all here, and just the fact that you've had the courage to speak up, you know, in front of like industry colleagues, and like you said, I think your industry is so demanding, right, and so heavily dominated by women, which is why, you know, I'm so pleased Jess's even got this on the agenda, but just looking after ourselves and prioritising our health, mental health, physical health. Yeah, I think you're all amazing. I'm so pleased you've all come up and spoken. I think it's going to help so many people. And this is being recorded as well, so I think it will, just if it touches one person, to me that's, you know, just like incredible, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, very brave. Stay here if you guys
you.
want. I know we're slightly, I think we're on time, right? But are there any sort of, should we quickly do one or two quick fire questions? If anyone's got anything they want to ask that hasn't been covered?
Yeah, I don't think we have a menopause policy in our company where I'm at, but what do you think is the kind of best first steps to opening up those conversations and maybe putting that in place, or small changes that we can make to support women in the workplace?
Yeah, so I'm obviously getting called into a lot of workplaces, and I'm seeing it very different in every company. So like it's great, you know, you were saying as well, you're like a champion. So there is a company, there's quite a few that do specific menopause training, but there's a company called, I don't know if it's a charity, Wellbeing of Women, that I know as part of the menopause mandate. They have actual official menopause guidelines that your HR, so I would say the first point of call is to go to HR and ask them if they've got anything in place, if they're planning to put anything in redirect them to a company like Wellbeing for Women that I know runs this stuff. And then things like even just having a menopause cafe or a conversation or like a monthly thing. I've seen a lot of companies starting to do that just to start normalising the conversation. It's just like us sitting here and having a chat, right? And the fact that you're saying, I think you were saying actually that your 4 out of your 6 are on the border are all menopausal, and I'm sure they would love to have had that chat and just think, okay, that day where I felt terrible at work and I came in, my colleague actually can sympathise, or she understands what she's going through it herself. So there's lots of little things, but I would say HR is the first point of call. And then a company-wide policy would be amazing, just the fact that you're getting
You
it
can
signed.
you can
right?
actually
Yeah,
Google it.
You can. I don't think it's a huge cost either.
No.
And I think it will become clearer, but I feel that companies have got it on the radar now. Obviously get someone like me to come in and give them a good talk, because it's just important. It's getting the buy-in from everyone at all levels, and the men as well in the room. I think is really key. So you want them to feel supported. But yeah, in your own experience.
Yes, because I actually, I've got a boyfriend now, not a husband anymore, sorry. But I got my boyfriend to watch the Davina program actually, and it was fantastic. And it's great when you're with a man who's very open to it and wants to learn. And I say to my children now, actually, if I can feel I'm getting, the emotions are kicking in, that's usually probably PMT-ish times. Sometimes you don't get a period, but you've still got all the symptoms. And I now say to the children or to anyone around me, I think I might overreact on something, because I can feel I'm different at those times. So rather than reacting and then reacting back to me, they now understand, because I say, I think I'm a bit peri at the moment, and whether that's right or wrong, but I think it's good that they understand that I'm in that phase at that moment in time, because you do make different decisions.
I would do the same.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think everyone knows. But it's just good, right? I mean, like, I sometimes come onto like presentations now, and I went into Parliament for diversity and equality's like proper recorded discussion, and I felt like a teenager. I had to write out all my notes and then wrote note cards, and then I just thought, actually, I'm just going to place them on the desk, because if I do have that moment of brain fog, which I think is really scary when you're working or presenting or doing something big, it can be, so I sometimes just start off and say, hopefully the brain fog won't hit me. I think I said that recently in an interview. Or you've got your card, do the things that make you feel a bit more comfortable. Like I had the cards, I didn't even have to look at them once, but I had them there just in case you have that moment. Because I don't know if any of you have had brain fog, but I think that's one of the most debilitating ones, especially in the workplace. If you just suddenly, you know your shit, and suddenly on the spot you just forget, right? I mean, it could be awful. And I'm, talking to so many women now where they're struggling, but companies are doing things at different rates. But I think we will hopefully in 5 years' time we'll see everyone's got all this stuff in place.
Davina, can I add something to that quickly, actually? Also, I think that it's really important that we start the conversation even earlier.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be about women's health. We need to start talking about periods, about people going through IVF, just having, you get some women who have debilitating periods. And I think it needs to start there, even with the younger generation, the issues they're having in the workplace. Because then it will be easier for them, hopefully, it'll become natural that they then progress into talking about the perimenopause and the menopause when they get to that stage.
And feeling comfortable as well,
Yeah.
so it's just a normal conversation rather than, sorry, did you want to say
There was a question there.
It wasn't really a question, it's more of a reflection from this session. Like, when you look at that slide that you showed on the statistics, the symptoms, it does feel a little bit overwhelming. And I think, as an industry, we've got to really pay attention to this, because I think there are so many fantastically talented women that are holding this industry up. And what kind of struck me is it's not business as usual. Like, at this stage of my life, I'm not going to be business as usual, because it's a moment of vulnerability. Whether you like it or not, those symptoms will have an impact on the way that I show up in the workplace. So I think, there's I'm so glad that Chet's put this on the agenda, and believe you me, wasn't going to let it slip, because he's like really pushing this forward. But you know, it's a much bigger question for us as an industry. Like we need to make these bold steps to acknowledge that so many women are experiencing this vulnerability at this particular stage in their life and other stages of their life. And those policies and recognition, empathy is so important to support our female talent.
So, Chet, do you mind speaking for 1 minute? I know you don't want to be put on the spot, or anyone get tired of his voice today, but I think it's just like, I think it just deserves a massive clap. As a male, I think straight away, I was just thrilled when you said you were going to put it on the agenda, but just, yeah, if you want to just share why.
Because I don't understand it. I've never only just started to hear about it. I know the taboo recall thing really broke to the forth a few years ago, but I don't know. I heard some terminology like 6-8 months ago. I think I was talking to Joe, and Ken, you guys were having a conversation.
Yeah, with Lisa. Lisa as well.
Lisa,
yeah.
and I heard some terms. I was like, I have no idea what it is. And it just felt like a huge thing that this industry needs to talk about more openly. And I'm just thank you so much for all of you to bring it. You know, educationally, some hopefully great tips and some amazing stories, which are, wow, like we were all tearing up here. I mean, the whole room was. Thank you so much for your openness. Yeah, thanks. I think we need to.
We do need to wrap up. So,
We'll
thank
take
everyone.
this out for a coffee.
Just some appreciation for our panel and Lavina. There are some amazing organisations doing work out there. Check out Hendrick Menopause in the Workplace. They're absolutely fantastic at going to the workplace. Ruth Devlin has written from Let's Talk Menopause has written a book called Men Let's Talk Menopause, which is specifically kind of aimed at men and partners and families. So there's loads of organisations, resources out there to help you get your workplace and your home life to a point where you feel comfortable, supported, and get everyone aware and informed. So thank you all so much.